What? Hey,
Hello.
it's so weird. Some of the people on leadership had a like regional call, and their Zoom wasn't working. So I had gotten this text from the leadership team saying, "Hey, apparently Zoom is down in most of the country, so plan your day accordingly." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I'm just reading this now and going, what do we do?" And I'm like, "Well, Laura's not there, but she is in the room." So I'm thinking, like, is this going to work or not? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working.
Yeah, we're fine. And we've got more people joining. So usually what happens is it takes until about like 3 or 4 minutes after for everyone to be here. So if we want to just chat about, miscellaneous stuff, we can totally do that.
Sure.
So I'm glad you don't have a home inspection today.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of follow-up inspections going on at 1:30. However, Kearney is there.
Okay.
So we're still picking away at those inspections from last Monday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fun.
Yes, yes. It's funny, like last year I felt like I got pretty lucky with home inspections. Like they seem to work out all right, but I'll tell you, some of the ones I've had so far this year, we've had just very interesting scenarios come up.
I'm just going to rename myself so that I don't show up as KW. As we do have, I see Anitra's on here. Hi, this is me. We have a couple of new people joining us. Mackenzie Milter is new. She joined us on Saturday for our fun house tours. We had 10 people. It was great.
Yeah, I saw your picture on Facebook. It was really cute. Everybody on the porch with their masks. I like that.
I'm like, we have to just capture this. So, all right. So it looks like we have a handful of people. So guys, in case you don't know, Lisa Packard, she is our Friday compliance broker. She helps out when Cindy is off. And so we've invited her to just come today and share about how she performs a CMA. What process does she use? What programs, what's kind of like mentally going on as she does it. And so Lisa, if you want to just start, tell us a little bit about your business, your team, how long you've been in business, and then you should have permission for screen share, and then you can just, run with it.
Excellent. All right, so I'm Lisa Packard. I run Team Packard. I was a solo agent for a number of years initially. This is my 8th year in business. I started over at First Weber back in 2013. I was there for 5 years, and came over to KW and learned a lot of new things. So my team consists of myself, and I have an executive assistant, Yolanda, and I have a showing partner, Kearney Carpenter. And how it works is I do all of the sales. So I'm doing all of our listings and I'm representing all of our buyers. However, when it comes to buyers, Kearney, my showing partner, is the one out there actually showing all the houses, attending the home inspections, attending subsequent inspections. She's headed to one right now, and also pre-closing walkthroughs. I write all the offers, I handle all the negotiations, write the amendments, coach the buyers, that sort of thing. So that's newer for us. I've had the showing partner since the summer, and last 2 years we've done about 45 transactions a year. Before that, consistently like 35-ish for the couple of years before that. So if we're ready, I'll just kind of show you what it is I do when I'm trying to price out a house and just kind of talk out loud about what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing. Does anyone have a prospect, a house that they have an opportunity to do a market analysis on, that they're stuck on, that they want me to take a crack at?
I do.
Okay.
It's I've done a couple analysis, but the comps are really difficult to pinpoint like a really good price. So
sure. What's the address?
Oh, I was not expecting to use that. I don't have it. Can you give me 1 second? I'll go grab it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go to MLS. Okay, let's see. I guess I'm just going to share desktop 1. That's probably right. Let's see. Can everyone see my MLS screen?
Yep, definitely.
Okay. So MLS is where I always go to find my comparables. I know there's other places to go. This is my favorite.
And is it your favorite because say Monsoon or RPR are not as like user friendly, or?
Yeah, I guess maybe it's because I'm used to how the information is presented on here. I really love looking at things in list view. So for example, I didn't put in any search criteria yet, but list view is my friend. I'm just going to move this camera up here. Okay. So I really love, I can quickly see bedrooms, bathrooms, estimated square feet. Like that's some of the main criteria. And garage, if there's a garage. So that's some of the main criteria that I'm using right off the bat to decide if I want to include that house or not. So I prefer to see things this way. I also like switching over to the map view. Wow, where are we? Holy moly. Okay.
MLS is sometimes fun when you try and like zoom out. You're like near Canada.
Yep. And look at that.
What happened?
Almost into Canada.
Right?
Okay. Did you find the address? Okay, you're muted. What do you have?
Am I unmuted now?
Now, yes.
Okay. It's 234 Scenic Ridge Court.
234 Scenic Ridge. Is it a single family?
It is.
Okay.
And Colgate.
Colgate. Great. Okay. So then the first thing I always do is I see if there's a prior listing. And there is. So here's a prior listing. Oh, is there a house on there now?
It's a brand new house that, yeah, that was probably when they built. It's a newer house.
Okay. So then I might look, it's a new house. So then I'm going to look at the tax info, see what I can find. Okay, yeah, they don't really have much info for us here. All right. So
I can tell you, I can try to tell you.
Okay.
If you need
Have
anything.
bedroom, bathroom
Yeah,
count.
it's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the square footage?
It's about 25, I think, 24.
24 to 2,500-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a 2-car, 3-car garage?
2-car.
And do you know how many acres?
1.3.
Okay, around 1 acre. And do you know the year it was built?
2014.
2014. Okay. All right. So then we are going to do a quick search. You know, if you had a prior listing, then you would then like look through the photo tours or photo tour and see if you can kind of get an idea for layout and finishes. But that's okay. We don't have one, and that's all right. So we're going to look for a single family, and I'm just going to start with the actives and the delayeds. And I don't care if things are contingent or not. I want to see everything. And let's see. Okay, Colgate doesn't come up, so we'll put in Richfield.
It's in Richfield, but the school district is Germantown.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I know there's certain areas where you know, like they're in one municipality, but they're taxed by or the mailing address or something. So so here's Richfield. And I like to drop a pin here and put in the property address so I can see how close things are to it. You don't need to put the zip in for this. Okay, so here's where our house is located. So we can see there's a couple of actives very close to it right now. And we're gonna go ahead and add pending houses and sold houses. I don't want all the sold houses forever. For me personally, I've been looking for things April 30th and newer, kind of feeling like those are going to be, you know, post-COVID time things. You know, some people go all the way a year back. Some people will go 6 months back from today. But this is how I've been rolling with 4/30/2020 as my kind of benchmark date. So I'll oftentimes start by drawing a little box around and starting first with an area that's, you know, kind of tight around the address. And if I don't find what I'm looking for in there, then I'll go outwards. So this gives us 27 results. Another thing I want to do is I don't want to look at any, I don't think I want to see if I can look at things just built after the year 2000, because I feel like older than 2000, it's not really going to be a very strong comparable. So if you go to this plus field in here, and I just type in EST for estimated, and that allows me to select estimated year built, and I can put in a minimum here. And that gives us 6. So let's see what we get. All right, so we have, you know, we have one that's active with offer, we have a pending, we have a couple of solds. And so what I want to do is, okay, I want to look at our total square foot and see if I can find what seem to be the best comparables. Oh, by the way, is does that finished space include anything in the basement, or is that all above grade?
That's all above.
Okay, so it's above grade. Do they have any basement finishing yet?
Not enough to count. Just a little bit.
Okay, so, we can see this house here on Ridgeview. It's 3,500 square feet, but I wonder if that's above grade. I might check. So we can see, I mean, this house is, around the same size above grade, but they have some pretty extensive basement finishing. So, so I don't know, I might just check the box on that and come back to it later, because I do like to show people a couple of actives and then a couple of solds so we can kind of compare. So then, oh, by the way, let's check the year built on that. So that was built back in 2003, a little bit older. It does have an extra garage space. It has a, one less bedroom. Now, above grade, it has the same amount of bathrooms, but they did add another bathroom in the lower level. So this one's on my maybe list, Ridgeview. Then Bridalwood looks like a brand new construction house. So that one is pending. Brand new house being built. Let's see, it's similar in size, similar in bedroom and bathroom count. It does have the extra garage space. I'll probably put this on my maybe list too. This can be helpful if you have a seller, who's selling something very similar, but it's used and it's, 6 to 7 years old, and someone else is buying something brand new at this, 540 level. This could kind of work as a ceiling for you. Like, hey, seller, it kind of looks like 540 and under is what we're looking at. If someone could walk up and buy something brand new that's never been used before for 540. Now, we don't know what it's closing at yet. So, but just something to keep in mind. So then let's see what this one is. This is a really big house. Above grade square foot, 3,365. Yeah, that's a strange one. Sometimes I pick a lot of them and then I come back later and eliminate. Okay. Yeah, look at this. This one's 6,949 square feet. We're not gonna use that one. That one's way too big. This one, 2,700 square feet, built in 2019. It's a little bit newer. Is our house a ranch or is it a two-story?
It's a two-story.
A two-story. I like to use 2 stories for 2 stories and ranches for ranches when I can. So I'm not going to use that ranch. And then this looks like a really big house. 6,000 square foot house. So we're not using that. Okay, so we have 3 to start with, but I don't feel like that's enough. So I'll go back to my map and I'm going to take out my rectangle. Ooh. I don't like that it zooms out all the way. Zoom back in. Here's another piece of criteria I'll try putting in to see if we can narrow down from the 44. I'll put in the school district and we'll select Germantown. Because if someone's particular about being in Germantown, that's going to help them decide on if they want a house or not. So we'll take these. You can see there's this guy down here. He's pretty far away. We're going to ignore that guy. The houses are little guys, I guess. All right. So let's see, we've got a couple more things. At a glance, this one at 2,360 square feet, I think I'll want to look at that. This one looks like a ranch, so I think I'm going to ignore that one. Okay, we already know we don't want this Windmere or this Timber Stone Way. Well, we'll take a look. That one's way too big on Stonefield. That was the ranch. That's a ranch. And then we just know, we're reasonably sure, just looking at other things, I don't think we're a $715,000 house. So looks like we've got 5. Let's take a look here. 2,800 square feet above grade, 2017, 3-car garage, 1.42 acres. That one's kind of the odd man out. If I feel like something's going towards the 500s, I don't know that I want to include a $600,000 house. So to me, I feel like these are probably the best ones. Let me just make sure Meadowlark isn't a ranch. Oh, looks like it is. So maybe we'll see. Sometimes I like to go down by price too. Just make sure we didn't miss any good ones here. A lot of 3-car garages around here. Well, maybe we'll put this one in here just for kicks, even though it's a ranch. We do the best we can. If there's not a lot of comparables, sometimes you have to bend things a little bit. So just verify these all look to be reasonably within the same area. So then looks like we have, let me sort the price descending. So it looks like buyers for something of this size in this area with this school district, 2000 built or newer, they're paying approximately from $500,000 to $540,000. And we, these two are going to be mysteries for us. We don't really know what they're going to close at. But this gives us kind of a range, with 540 being a brand new house no one ever lived in before. And then at 500, see when that one was built. That's a 2014 built house with a 3-car garage, but otherwise similarly sized. It has one more garage space. Yours has one more bedroom. It's a 2-story house, a little bit different footprint. I'm just going to verify real quickly again that we're looking at things with a nice acreage of over 1 on them or around 1. These are all the little things I checked. This one's got more acreage. Let's see. Okay. So there was one that was kind of the odd man out at over 2 acres. However, we're going to leave it in because we need to have a couple of houses. I don't want to have too few. So then what I would do is, oh, wait. That one's, you know what? That one's huge and it has more acreage. So unfortunately, I'm gonna kick it to the curb. Okay. All right, so we're down to 4, but I think they're pretty good. And so what I do is I print these out, and I bring them in person. I bring the private version. I do the full report with additional photos. I'm just going to go to PDF for now. Preview it. Okay. So I print these out, and then I crack out my highlighter, and I highlight the address. I highlight the list price, the status, the bedrooms, the acreage, the estimated total square foot, the bathroom count, the days on market count, the garage. If it's sold, see, this one hasn't sold yet. We'll go to one that's sold. That one is active offer. For any of the sold ones, I also go down here at the bottom and I'm highlighting the sold price and the closing date. And then let me go back to the search results. So then I'm showing these to the seller and I'm saying, hey seller, here's this house over on Bridalwood. Are you familiar with it? Did you see that one online? And, they might say yes or no. And then together we'll look at it and say, okay, well, you can see, how many bedrooms does it have? And it's 4. How many bathrooms? How many garage spaces? And I, kind of, have a conversation with them about it. And so, then at the end, I'll compare it to their house. Like, okay, well, you can see seller that this house is brand new, has an extra garage space. So it, at 540, if your house was the same price, buyers would see this one as a better value than yours because it's brand new. No one's ever lived in it before. So that's telling me, seller, that I think we want to try to stay under 539, 990. So then we'll look at the next one and we'll compare it and, we'll say, okay, yeah, look at this one. Has 3 bedrooms, you have 4. It's got the basement finishing. Yours is a little newer. We'll see if there's something else we can talk about with it. Like, oh, you can see they have, that they have the, fireplace, vaulted ceiling, whatever they have, you could compare it. And then if you feel like it's a good comparable, once you've been in the house, you could say, oh, I feel like this house is very close to yours. And if it's not, and if this one still seems like a better value than theirs, then you tell them so. And then you just move down the list. And the other thing I like to point out on the sold ones, like what happened with the price and the days on market. Like, oh, look, seller, look at this one. See how they priced their house at 509 and they were on the market 3 days and they sold at 515. Like that means that probably more than one buyer felt like this house was a good value, and they must have had a bidding war on that. And if I feel like this house was a pretty close comparable to theirs, I might suggest that we want to do the very same thing. Like, oh, well, our house is just like this. Maybe we want to price it at 509 and just do a repeat of what they did. So, again, they have 3 bedrooms. You have 4. They have the extra garage space that you don't have. And then finally down at Meadowlark here, we can say, oh, look, here's a house the same age as yours, roughly the same size. Again, same thing. This keeps happening where they have 1 fewer bedroom than you, but 1 more garage space than you. But look at that. I mean, they put their house at 499.9. It was gone in one day. And man, if you want to do the same thing, 499 might be a good price to use and just do the same thing they did and go for a repeat of what they did. I mean, look, they closed in the summer. They probably had a bidding, maybe they had a bidding war, maybe, they had a buyer that came just on that first day and just loved it. And it was really easy. So, when I see things like 3 days on the market, 1 day on the market, I'd much rather just kind of copy what those folks did and try to go for a repeat than, looking at this thing and saying, oh, houses go as high as 539.9. Let's price our house at 539.9. Then the issue you run into there is if you do get a bidding war, there's no room for buyers to bid higher because there's going to be some appraisal concerns. So is that helpful, Anitra? Are these some of the houses that you were thinking of?
There's a couple of those that I had as well. I was actually going a little lower with the price, but I was looking at older houses where you took in houses over 2,000 only. So
okay,
it does help. Yes.
Okay. Sure.
Lisa,
Yeah,
do you find sellers ask you about Zillow? Do you look at Zillow and have that number prepared when you go in?
I definitely would encourage writing down the Zillow's estimate number on your notes. for when you're going to the appointment? In fact, let's
Yeah.
check that.
Yeah, I did look it up just to see out of curiosity. So it gave a range of 405 to 532. But it does say that the last 30 days is 470. And you know how Zillow operates. I mean, they can take a 1970s house and a 2020 house, and one house might have, complete grandma, no updates. And then the other one, even if it wasn't a 2020, if it was built in 1990, maybe they did the finished basement and they added granite and, lots of high level finishes inside. So Zillow's not comparing all of those subjective things.
Yep, something you can ask them when if they gripe about their Zillow's estimate. Oh, when did Zillow come over?
That's good.
Yeah. When's the last time Zillow came inside and looked at your house?
Funny.
They'll probably say never. So yeah, I mean, for me, like I get real nerdy with it, and I do like, if I'm looking at a 2014 house, like that's really not the same as a 1960s, 1970s house. And then, if I had a 1960s, 1970s house, I'm not going to be looking at any of these houses. I'm going to be looking for things, I don't know, like 50s through 80s potentially. And then, like I've kind of developed where I, kind of do it by feel, and you kind of heard me thinking out loud and talking out loud as I do this. But if you need like a benchmark to start with, I've heard as far as sizes, if you look at things 20% bigger and 20% smaller, and kind of use that as your window, that can be helpful.
Yeah, that's pretty much like an appraisal standard. Lisa, there was a question in the chat.
Oh, sure. I can't see it. Thank you.
Yeah, Catherine is asking, so is this a pre-market analysis strategy to use if you have not been in the home before? And I guess I would say to that, typically, have you even been in the house that you're going to do the listing on? Are you asking certain qualifying questions to get some of this data that Anitra asked you? And are you just in one and done, or do you do a two-part?
Sure, yeah. So I do use a pre-qualifying script. It is Jeff Glover's pre-qualifying script. I want to say it's in the one source or one spot for resources in the Google Drive. But it's, it's questions where you try to find their motivation, and you do have them tell you about the house. So they'll tell you how many bedrooms and bathrooms and so forth. But then, if I didn't get that information, or they're like, oh yeah, like I have, bedrooms in the basement or what have you, and I want to check, what legitimately it's considered as far as bedrooms and bathrooms, I will, look it up on MLS and on tax information and just verify the information. People don't always know their exact square footage, for example, unless they're like it'd be like a high C personality type, or they just know all of the stats of their house to a T. But yeah, I do a one step listing appointment. But what I do is, before I've ever been in the house, I do this step that I just showed you, where I find the comparables, and I bring them with me, and I study these, and I will, how I mentioned, I print them out and I take notes, or I'm sorry, that I highlight things on it. I also will write myself little notes on it, like on the piece of paper. So like I might, for something like this, I might make a little note, vinyl shower surround. I might make notes about, like I could say, green carpeted rec room, like just little notes that help jog my memory on what the house had, so that when I'm talking about these with the seller later, I can kind of, tell them about the house a little bit more. And like the whole house had, 6 panel doors, I might note to myself it had carpet, or hardwood or whatever it might have, walk-in closets. So I'll just note a couple of features or, things that I feel like stick out to me. And then that way, when I go to the appointment, the first thing I do is walk around that house without the seller. I ask them, if I can look at the house through the eyes of a buyer. And then, in my brain, I'm kind of, ticking back through these listings that I already looked at online. And then when I sit down with them after I walk through the house, I usually have a pretty good idea of which houses it's most similar to. But really the main part of my listing meeting with these people is going through the comparables. I don't have a lot to say besides that, because if we can't get a price that makes sense, then it's never going to go anywhere. And that's the part that they really want to hear first of all. So we just kind of dive right into working on a price. And let's see.
Lisa, what do you say to, excuse me, what do you say to the seller who says, well, if it sold in 1 or 3 days, perhaps it was underpriced?
Well, I like to make the market the good guy or bad guy. So you can mention how we're really just interpreters of the market, and the market will do what it's going to do, and we're doing is looking at it and interpreting it. So in that case, if it was meant to go for higher, then the market would have made it so. There would have had 20 offers, and it would have gone 20 over or 30 over, in that 1 to 3 days. And
Okay.
if you come across those where they've been on the market like 30 days and they're still on the market, that's a really good example. Hey seller, look what's happening with your neighbor. Do you see how they're 30 days on the market and they don't have an offer yet? That's the market telling us it's not priced right. And we don't want to make that mistake.
Okay,
I would
thank you.
also say with the one, number one on Bridalwood, if you look at the days on market on that, it might be a lot longer. And that's because typically builders will put, well, and that's not even that long. But having worked for a builder in the past, I know that a lot of times once they dig that hole and they start pouring their foundation, boom, it's going on the market. But that whole construction process is 8 to 10 months, depending on weather and delays and now lumber and the difficulty in getting things. So if this one were to not say 54 and let's say it said like 186, I would not at all be alarmed. And when I would do the statistical piece, I normally go in, at least I don't know, it sounds like you're just showing these, which is what I do. A lot of times, if you click on that CMA button, and then if you do the far right one, just the statistical piece, yeah, and then the next, and then going down in there, it'll average out your days for you. And so if you look at the average sold, there were 2 solds. They sold in 2 days. One pending was 54. That's going to drag down, once that guy closes, it's going to drag down those average days on market of the solds. But you have to take into consideration that it was a brand new construction and it was probably pre-listed for a bit.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And again, the purpose for me in including that one was more about just showing, look what someone can get brand new, around that size. So let's be
Right.
careful.
Yeah, you can't overprice a brand new house.
Exactly. This is a used house, and we don't want to price it as high or higher than a brand new comparable house. But yes,
That does depend though too, if the new house is going to include driveway and landscaping and all the other things that are presently completed on the house she's listing.
Yeah, you don't know, that's not always included in
Right.
the price. Sometimes have to add that later. So yeah, I mean, if we would, it would have been nice if we had more homes that were built from 2000 to 2021 to pick from, but we did not. So we just, sometimes you have to make the best with what's out there. Oh, another thing I'll look at, you know, with something with an accepted offer like this Ridge View, the days on market count here is just, you know, from the time that the listing started. This doesn't figure in when the offer was accepted. So I will make a note of that too, and you can figure that out by going to the history. And if you click on the little plus sign here, we can see when it changed to contingency, which was on the 15th of January. And look, they started on the 13th. So that, you know, something that we could mention, we could jot down on the piece of paper is that this was on the market 2 days. So we can feel pretty reasonably comfortable with 2 days on the market that they're probably getting their 529.9 or better. So I would always check that out too. So I don't like to use a lot of paper, but I feel like having these physical pieces of paper that I can pass across the table to the sellers seems to be helpful, and they like to pick them up and look at them. So I do the data sheets that I scribble on and highlight. And then I also, I mentioned I do one visit, but I do send out a pre-listing packet to folks before the visit. And in that, I can show you what my packet looks like. But I will print out a quick 4 report of these to put in the packet so they'll see them in advance. And the way you can do that is just by selecting over on the side here, quick 4 report. And then that just puts, you know, your nice little snapshot on 1 or 2 pieces of paper for you. So that's that. And then I can show you what my pre-listing packet looks like. I gotta move my, whoops, not now. Are you going to open? Theoretically.
I find that my computer works really slowly when I'm on Zoom.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to open something, it like has a delay.
Yep. Oh, good. The file doesn't exist. By the way, we had just a amazing, crazy. Oh, here we go. Technology day yesterday. I got a new phone, and then everything went bananas. So, but now it looks like we're in business. Okay. So I have this this pre-listing packet. You can make one in Command. This one I had made using Michael Lewis Marketing Suite, which is something we had before Command. And then I had just downloaded it. And on my Mac, I get this Keynote program for free. It's kind of like a PowerPoint, but you can print, you can print from it. So I have my, my pre-listing packet. I have a little letter in here, and I can simply go in and, put in the correct address and meeting date that we're going to be doing. And then I have a little table of contents page here. So it lets them know what's inside this packet, an about me page, the selling process, how we sell a home, marketing plan options, testimonials, portfolio of excellence. If you don't have homes that you've sold yet, your portfolio of excellence could perhaps be a Keller Williams Milwaukee Southwest portfolio of excellence. Mm-hmm. And that quick 4 report that I mentioned, based on those houses that we were looking at, that's in there too. And then I also give them a blank NBR LLC disclosure, a blank condition report, and a blank focus title authorization form. I also make a little note here, if they have a copy of their title insurance owner's policy, they could have it ready. And then they ask why. When I see them, it's like, oh, well, you can save money on your title insurance by turning that in. and they appreciate that.
Yeah, that's worth like $200.
Yeah, for sure. Who doesn't want $200?
Mhm.
So then I have an About Me page, and I have a page kind of detailing the process, what happens in what order. And by the way, I can send this to staff, so don't feel like you have to take copious notes, because you can have this and you can.
This would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
We are going to be having a listing presentation class with Scott and Tina on March 2nd. So you'll get more on this type of stuff. There are also listing presentations in Google One Spot, but it's a matter of looking at multiples and seeing what information do you like, what fits your personality.
Okay.
For sure. This page is how we sell your home. Now I am in the process of editing this and making some changes to it. This is going to change into a new page. It's called a 3-phase plan. So I'm kind of going to be rewriting this, but I haven't finished it yet. So for now, if you were going to try to do something similar, this is the page I have been using. Then I offer marketing plan options. So if someone lives HGTV ready all the time and I don't need to do anything to the house, then I would maybe do this bronze package at 5.5%. I do keep a storage unit full of staging materials. If I need to bring just a few of those things to a house, like maybe just some matching end tables for their bedroom, a couple pieces of art, maybe a lamp or a rug, then I charge them, a medium price. And then if they have an empty house or just the worst furniture, then we could charge them the gold package, where I pay for home staging of up to 3 rooms. Like I have a service. I don't have enough furniture personally to do that, nor do I have the energy. So I work with Revision Design out of Oconomowoc and have them bring in some furniture. And then with COVID times, I just I put a note on here that I am including hand sanitizer, masks. Probably not gloves anymore. It's not really about gloves. So hand sanitizer and masks at the front door. I put a little basket there with shoe covers too, usually at this time of year. I took a listing in Madison over the weekend, and they pay their buyer agents 3% instead of 2.4 up there. So I did have to edit my marketing plan options because I couldn't take a 5.5% listing in Madison. That wouldn't work out so well. Right. So I bumped everything up 0.5% for Madison. Then I have testimonials. And then I have my portfolio of excellence, where I put in, the pretty front cover pictures, and showing off the ones where I sold things quickly and for high dollar amounts. So you're not going to see me put on here something that sat on the market for 30 days and sold for $10,000 less.
Yep.
Not that doesn't ever happen. It can happen, but I like to show off my success stories on here. And so that all goes. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let me show you what I put that in. Off of Amazon.com, I got these beautiful shiny red folders. They have a spot to put a business card in there. So I put it in a beautiful shiny red folder. I put the things they have to fill out on one side and the information on the other side. And that's what I drop off at their house prior to meeting them. Any questions? Anything you want me to go back to or go more in depth on?
When you say drop off, do you mail or do you actually go to their house and drop it off? Because you're going to go to their house then and actually sit down with them.
Yeah. If I can fit it into my schedule, I'll drop it off personally.
Uh-huh.
There's oftentimes not enough time to mail it.
Okay.
If someone's like, I want to sell my house, you don't want to like leave it for like a week and then go there.
Right.
So usually dropping it off is the fastest. Sometimes my assistant drops it off. And then I did one time get Cookies by Design to drop it off with some cookies for me, which was awesome. But then I found out that they weren't supposed to do that. And I was bummed. But, people, this is so true. Think about for yourself, like you get something in the mail, like a big folder, it's probably going to sit on your counter for a number of days.
Yeah.
But if something like think about like your Amazon packages and stuff, like if something like comes to your door, you're probably
Right.
going to open it.
Right.
So that's a hot tip on that.
I have a couple of questions. Let me start more easy. So you had mentioned like April 30th in terms of how far you go back, kind of in reference to COVID. When we get to the point in our lives where we don't have to think as much about that in terms of COVID, do you have a number then that you usually do? Is it 6 months? Is it a year?
Oh, then I'll probably go a year again. And if, because then you'll get more things to pick from.
Okay.
But I will point that out to people, like, one of the ones that we had on our comps for Anitra was sold in the summer, and other ones sold in like January. So I will mention to them that this was in the summer, and this was now, but still, I mean, nothing's going to be so old that it's not going to make sense to look at it.
I don't want to take up all the questions if other people have.
Oh, is that time frame for comparable solds?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like 6 to 9 months, maybe 12 months. An
Yeah.
appraiser isn't going to go further than 12 months.
Right.
Also to keep in mind, an appraiser is not going to cross municipal boundaries because you have a different taxing authority. And like Lisa had pointed out, a different school district. If you have a large place, like say you're in the city of Milwaukee or something, you want to watch for major arterials that kind of frame in your location. So if you're doing like a 2-mile radius in the city of Milwaukee, watch for big streets or like 894 or, one of the freeways.
Yeah, what's cool? Something you can do, like you're gonna come across this where someone's gonna say like, a Milwaukee buyer, I want to, I'm looking in Washington, Washington Heights. And you're like, great. What does that mean? If you just go to Google and type in, Washington Heights, look over here. Boom. Those are your boundaries. So then, say, oh, okay, I can see that pretty easily. It's bounded by North Avenue to the north and Milwaukee Avenue to the south and 60th. And then, over here, like kind of next to the park. So then if that's where the house is that you're doing the market analysis is, or that's where your buyer wants to buy, then you can actually go in and you can draw out those boundary lines on the MLS, because Milwaukee is pretty neighborhood specific. So if someone tells you, I need a market analysis on my Washington Heights house, you're not gonna like come in with Bayview area comparables. They're gonna say, okay, you clearly don't know my neighborhood. Milwaukee isn't Milwaukee. It's so neighborhood specific. But yeah, so I'm zooming in. See, look, here we go. Here's Washington Heights. We know from looking at the map on Google that this is Washington Heights.
And if you find that you do something quite often, say you always work in a certain neighborhood, or if you're always setting up a search for, say like, Menominee Falls, Germantown, blah, blah, blah. In the overlays on the right side out in the lake, there's a drop down in the overlays, and you can put, you can save your own searches for different shapes and stuff. You can create new ones, but you can look at like zip codes, flood zones. I use that quite often, and I'll look to make sure that a house isn't in, because if I'm thinking that it looks like it's pretty low lying and there's a creek back there, and my client's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so you don't have flood insurance. Well, we bought our house 42 years ago and we built it, and they've never had a mortgage. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's the lender that requires you to have flood insurance. So it's good for me to look this up because you might actually be there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got to watch out for that in like in Glendale, even a couple of properties along the Milwaukee River could be in flood zones, not just, out by, out in lake country. Oh, something I want to mention that I forgot to do that you always want to do to save your sanity later is, when you are working on that, that search for those comparables. Where's it? Okay. So here's that search that we were working on for Anitra. You should save it because ideally you're going to get that listing, and then, I might call it like whatever their name is or the street name. You want to be able to very quickly go back to that. So like if for some reason, if you want to meet an appraiser at the property later and maybe Ridgeview is closed now, but you can very quickly go back to that comparable search, see if there's new things to use or, what happened with the ones you were originally looking at, and be able to quickly find those things again to use them. Or, maybe the price didn't work out. Maybe the market is telling us that price didn't work, and we want to, keep an eye on that area and see what new things are coming in and what prices they're at in case, to give clues on how to adjust the price.
So we have about 5 minutes left. Any last questions for Lisa?
I have a question. Like kind of relatable to this one that Anitra brought up, but in general, would you say that majority of your listings, or like when you're trying to acquire a listing, is the process for you like phone conversation, then meeting in person, then bringing all this? Or do you feel like most of the time you talk over the phone and then you do all this research and bring it to them? Like I'm trying to get a feel for Anitra saying that there's no pictures of this house that she had you comp online. So if she hasn't seen it, what are the odds that it looks comparable to these or not comparable at all? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the typical process is I'm going to get, a lead, or I'm going to, call around and find a lead. So there's going to be a phone conversation. Maybe it starts with a text or an email, but I do get them on the phone because I want to go through those pre-qualifying questions and find out if I should even go there.
Mm-hmm.
And, so the questions are going to be, try to figure out their urgency level, like if they have a price in mind already. And if they're like totally unreal, like if Anitra's client was like, oh yes, I would like to list this house for 800,000. Then that's a clue that seller might not be in Realityville, and you might not want to spend as much time. But yes, so there's a phone conversation. I do find out what I can about their house. And then I'll go into this research mode so I can print out that quick for report of these houses, and I can print out what I need for that pre-listing packet that I'm going to drop off at their house,
Mm-hmm.
or leverage out someone to drop off for me. And then we're going to meet there, and I'm going to have on my end everything I need to list that house. So in the packet, they have their condition report and so forth. And a good clue for you for how ready they are is if you get there and they've already filled that stuff out.
Mhm.
Like if you get there and the condition report's like all filled out on the table, it's like, oh, good, they mean business. Like they're ready to go. So always bring a listing contract with you, either digitally or paper. Have it ready to go. And the goal is to get a signed listing on that one appointment. And it's okay if you haven't seen the house yet. You know, one can reasonably assume, especially with a 2014 house, like just looking at the pictures of what the other houses of that era have, it should kind of fall in line with those houses.
Mhm.
But then you'll know because you'll have studied the area. So when you get in there, if it is like totally out of this world different, well, you know that, and then you can try to talk about it and work through it, and just realize if someone takes their $500,000 value house and puts $100,000 in weird personal taste upgrades to it, it does not equal a $600,000 house.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. But yeah, and if I just one thing, I always want to make sure in this market where people are having all these bidding wars, I'm trying so hard as a listing agent to leave room for that bidding war and just asking for the sellers to trust that if it's meant to go higher, the market is going to push it higher. And as backward as it sounds, it's a lot easier to get 510,000 by pricing a house at 499 than it is to get 510,000 by pricing a house at 520.
Mhm.
It works backwards, and it's a little hard for them to understand. But if they can put that, if they can trust you, and then they'll be so impressed when everything happens as you foretold.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to price with the market than to overprice. In a lot of listing presentations, you'll see I have this in mind, but there's like this triangle, and it's showing like if you are priced at market value, you appeal to 60% of the buyer population. If you just price 10% over market value, you automatically cut that down to 30% of buyers. Because when you're looking at the 60, not everyone is going to appeal to that house, whether it's a ranch or a 2-story or just based on the age or the interior finishes. But when you're looking at trying to overprice, and a lot of times in this market we're seeing sellers are just ready to gouge. They're being a little bit too bold, and they're going out really high, and that's the ones that are sitting on the market. Whereas if they're pricing at or near, they're getting 10 or 20 grand over.
Yeah, I never got pricing training initially. I kind of figured it out over time. And so I would make this mistake a lot earlier in my career, where I'd look at, houses that were like seemed similar and were kind of in a line together, and it's like, oh, it looks like they're going from between 200 to 250. We can price it at 250. But no, you really shouldn't. Like you should price it less, so that if people want to drive it to 250, they can, and you're not going to be fretting about an appraisal.
Yeah, because once that appraisal report is typed and done, like there's probably less than 5% chance that you're going to get it changed. Appraisers, are set to do their job. They are not to be challenged or really told what to do by the seller or by us. I mean, we try and leave, comps there, with maybe like an X through it, and circle reasons why it's not a good match, so that you've done your research. You can kind of leave that as like a gentle hint. But once that appraiser has published their report, unless there are like really blatant errors, like if the property is south of X, like south of Main Street, and they say, yes, all comps that were used were, north of Main Street. And you're like, wait, but this is south of Main Street. Why did you use that? Or if it's a really great property and there's not very many foreclosures or distressed properties in that area, and they most heavily weighted their like best 2 comparables were like distressed homes. And this one is definitely not. I've had a few where clients have come to me when they're trying to refinance, and it's like, I know who the lender is, and I know that they use this particular appraiser and they don't change or vary from that. Like, unfortunately, your best bet is probably to start over and try and refinance somewhere else, because that particular lender has an issue with their appraisals. But yeah.
Yeah, but don't put yourself in that position in the first place.
Yeah.
Price that home, price the home at something that makes sense, that looks like a value in the eyes of buyers.
Yeah.
And the buyers will drive it higher, and then you can use that as a reason that it, sold for higher. Hey, look, appraiser, we got 10 offers. That drove the price up.
Yeah.
Oh, question from Nate.
Yeah, and we are at 2:02, so we need to also let Lisa go.
Okay, well, we can take one more question.
Last question, and then we're gonna
Thanks, Lisa. To that end, then, do you like with the example that we had, we used a new construction as the ceiling number. Lots of times that's not going to be the case, but for the purposes of appraisal and other things, do you purposefully try to find a listing that's your relative ceiling to what you think you're going to be working with? And then do you discuss that with the seller, that this might be a house that we look to as, we're probably not going higher than here? Is that something you make a point of doing?
Yes, when I'm showing them these comparables, I usually start with the highest price one. I'll do the actives first. In this case, the active was also the highest one. So I'll start with the actives. Look, this is your competition. Look, this price, this is what it was. You can see it's brand new. So we can reasonably assume that we should not go higher than this. And that is probably not going to work out. So I do like to point out to them and kind of stick that number in their brain that we don't want to go over this number. And then
you can ask them too, by showing them the pictures, what you're really doing is showing them and saying, hey, compared to yours, look at these pictures. Where do you feel that you fit? Look at the finishes and look at, the number of bedrooms and the acreage. Where do you see yourself fitting? And a lot of times people will just go, yeah, I'm in between these. I'm not up here.
Yes, you should always ask them. And my favorite is when people will kind of, they get it and they'll say the number you want them to say. But so yes, ask them. And if they still haven't said the number that you're hoping for, then you can do some objection handling to try to get them down a little bit. But yeah, you should definitely ask them. What do they think after looking at these? What price do you feel would make your house look like a value in the eyes of the buyer?
Okay. Lisa, thank you so much for spending an hour with us.
You.
We really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Sure thing. Yeah, if anybody gets into a sticky situation with trying to figure out comparables, you can give me a ring. I don't mind. I'm happy to help. The better job we all do together pricing houses, the better Keller's reputation is, and the faster we sell houses with better days on market and better, list to sales ratios. That's good for everybody.
Yep. And I did put in the chat too, but just in case you're not looking at it, that pre-qualifying script that Lisa was mentioning, it is in one spot under winning listings, and then pre-qualifying questions, Jeff Glover. There's a couple of different options in there too, so you can look at all of those and maybe make your own question list.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
See you guys all tomorrow at 1:15 in the training center in New Berlin. We have Carrie Douglas coming in, and she and I will be showing our buyer consultation presentations. So we'll be getting you guys all put together.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.